The city square was alive with noise, filled with bright lights and strange smells. Traders from many worlds gathered there, shouting their prices, waving their goods. The air was heavy with dust and smoke, and the cries of animals locked in, cages mixed with the harsh laughter of cruel merchants. In the middle of this chaos stood a small wooden platform, and on that platform was a girl. She was not like the others. Her skin was pale with a faint shimmer of silver, her frame too thin. For her age, her arms wrapped around her chest as if she could hide her shame, but she could not, because the traders had stripped her of her dignity. The crowd laughed, some threw bits of cloth or spoiled food at her. Each insult cut her deeper than any chain could. The girl shivered in the cold, her body weak from hunger. She had been dragged there hours before, displayed like an object for sale. No one showed pity. Not her own people. Not the other aliens who walked past with mocking eyes. To them, she was nothing. Useless. Worthless. Just a joke to be mocked. But at the edge of the crowd stood one figure who did not laugh. He was a human, taller than most around him, dressed in a worn jacket that had seen many journeys. His face was calm, but his eyes burned as he watched the cruel scene. He could not look away, his hands clenched at his sides. Each insult from the crowd made his jaw tighten. The traders called out, shouting about her weakness. They said she was too small to work, too fragile to fight, no use for anything. The crowd jeered, demanding the price be lowered. For them, it was entertainment, not trade. And the girl's eyes, filled with tears, stared down at the ground. She dared not look at anyone. Suddenly, one alien shouted, "Strip her more. Let them see what she truly is." The crowd roared in agreement. The trader laughed and pulled away the thin piece of cloth she had left. Gasps and cruel cheers filled the air. The girl's body shook, her face turned away in shame. Her bare feet pressed against the cold wood of the platform. Her small frame trembled like a leaf in a storm. At that moment, the human stepped closer. His shadow stretched long across the ground as he pushed through the laughing crowd. Some noticed him and sneered. "Look, a human dares to come near," one said. Another laughed. "Humans are weak. He probably wants a pet." The words stung, but the human ignored them. His eyes stayed on the girl. The girl lifted her head for just a second. Her eyes met his. For the first time that day, she saw no mockery, no cruelty, only something strange, something warm. Hope flickered inside her, small and fragile. She quickly looked down again, fearing it was just her imagination. The human stopped at the front of the crowd. His voice was steady when he spoke. "Enough," he said. The noise of the market did not stop, but a few near him turned, surprised. The trader raised his brows and laughed. "Enough? She is ours to sell. Do you want her human? Can you even pay?" The crowd laughed again, the sound cruel and sharp. The human's gaze did not leave the girl. "She is not an object," he said firmly. His words were like a stone thrown into a still pond. The laughter faltered for a moment. Some were shocked, others amused, but the trader only smirked. "Then take her if you dare," he mocked. "But be ready, for she comes with chains, and those chains do not break so easily." The crowd leaned in, waiting. The girl's heart pounded in her chest. She could not understand why this stranger spoke for her. Humans were mocked even more than she was. Yet here he stood, alone, facing a sea of enemies. He stepped onto the platform, his boots heavy on the wooden boards. The trader did not stop him. Eager to see the human humiliated, the girl shrank back, afraid, not of him, but of what would happen next. The human reached out. His hand touched the cold iron chain around her wrists. The crowd laughed again, shouting that he would fail, but the sound of snapping metal silenced them. The chain broke in his grip like brittle wood. The girl gasped, her wide eyes fixed on him. The market went quiet. For the first time that day, the laughter died. The human took off his coat, heavy and warm, and draped it over her trembling shoulders. She clutched it tightly, the fabric smelling of travel and fire. For the first time in years, she felt safe, even if only for a moment, but safety was not real. Not yet. The silence of the market broke into shouts. Guards began to move. Traitors shouted in rage. The crowd erupted. The human turned his head, his eyes sharp, his voice low as he whispered to her, "Stay close to me." The girl nodded, her breath shaking. Behind them, boots thundered on stone. Ahead, the night waited, dark and uncertain. The market of shame was no longer just a place of cruelty. It had become the start of something no one expected. A storm was coming, and the human had just lit its fire. The market erupted with chaos. Traders shouted in anger, guards rushed forward, and the crowd howled with disbelief. The fragile alien girl clutched the coat around her trembling body, her wide eyes fixed on the man who had broken her chains. She could not believe what he had done. No one had ever stood for her, no one had ever cared. Yet this stranger, a human mocked by many, dared to do what others feared. The guards moved in quickly. Large figures with glowing armor, their long spears sparked with energy. They pointed them at the human. Their leader barked, "Drop her, human. She is property of the market." His voice was sharp and filled with authority. The crowd cheered at his words, eager to see the human crushed. But the human did not step back. His voice cut through the noise. "She is not property," he said calmly. His tone was firm, steady, not loud, yet it carried weight. The guards hesitated for a brief moment. The alien girl's heart skipped. Could words alone stop such power? The traitor who had mocked her earlier stepped forward, his wide grin full of cruelty. "You think your human words mean anything here?" he sneered. "This market is built on strength, on power, and you have none." The crowd roared with laughter. Some shouted, "Break him! Show him what happens to weak humans!" Others mocked, "Maybe he wants to keep her as a toy." Their jeers cut like knives, but the human stood tall. The girl pulled the coat tighter, her body still shook, but her eyes rose, watching him. She could not understand this courage. Humans were supposed to bow, to beg. Yet he stood against a sea of enemies. The guards advanced, their spears glowing brighter. The human's hand moved slowly. He reached behind his belt and pulled out a simple blade. It was not shining, not decorated, just a worn piece of steel. The crowd laughed even louder. "A knife? Against us?" They jeered, but the way he held it was different. Calm, steady, like a man who had used it before. His voice rose again, not in anger, but in warning. "The first who steps forward will regret it." The words froze the nearest guard for a second. They could not explain why such a small blade brought such fear. The traitor sneered, waving his hand, "Seize him!" The guards rushed. The human moved with speed that surprised them. His blade flashed, striking a spear aside. Sparks burst in the air. The alien girl gasped, her breath stuck in her throat. She had never seen such defiance. The crowd roared again, some cheering the guards, others watching in stunned silence. The human's coat flared as he moved, shielding the girl with his body. His eyes never wavered. Each step he took was measured, firm. The guards pushed harder, circling them, but the human did not yield. He spoke once more, his voice stronger. "Now, she has suffered enough," he declared. "You will not touch her again." The girl's chest tightened. Tears filled her eyes. No one had ever spoken for her. No one had ever said she deserved protection. The words wrapped around her. Heart like the coat around her shoulders, the traitor snarled, his face red with rage. "You dare challenge the market? You dare stand against our laws?" He raised his hand high, ready to give the final command, but the human's voice cut through like a blade. "Then let the whole market hear me. She is free. I will not leave her here." A shocked silence fell for a heartbeat. The words carried over the crowd like thunder. The girl's lips parted. She could hardly breathe. The human had not just taken her chains, he had declared her free. The guards, however, did not care for words. They charged again, 2 against 1, their spears aimed at his chest. The human twisted, his blade flashing. One spear snapped. The other slid across his jacket, leaving a burning line but not breaking him. He shoved the guard back with his shoulder, the strength in him far greater than they expected. The crowd gasped again. Some began to whisper, murmurs spreading like fire. "How is he doing this? A human cannot fight like that." Others shook their heads. It's impossible. He should already be dead. But the human still stood, breathing hard, his eyes locked on the guards, his coat draped over the girl, his blade steady, his defiance stronger than their fear. The traitor's face twisted with anger. His voice rose. "Enough games, kill him!" The command sent more guards rushing. The girl's breath caught. Her small hand clutched the human's coat tighter. Her voice broke. In a whisper, "Please run." But he did not run. He turned his head slightly, just enough for her to see his eyes, calm, determined, unshaken. "I told you," he said softly. "Stay close to me." The words made her heart race. She did not understand why. But she trusted. Him trusted a human more than her own people. Her fear did not vanish, but something new began to grow, a spark of courage she had never felt. The market shook with shouts. The guards closed in, and yet the human's stance never wavered. In that moment, it was clear. He was not just a man with a blade. He was a storm rising against their cruelty. The girl looked at him, her breath trembling, and for the first time she thought, maybe she was not worthless. Maybe she had found someone who believed she was worth saving. The spears flashed again, the crowd roared, and the human's defiance burned brighter. The market of shame would remember this night, for it was no longer the place where a girl was mocked. It was the place where a human stood against them all, and the battle had only just begun. The night air was thick with noise. The shouts of traitors and the clashing of guards filled the market. The human stood tall, his blade glinting under the harsh lights. The alien girl clung to his coat, her body shaking. Her chains still hung loose around her wrists, broken but not gone. Every sound made her flinch, but she stayed close to him. The guards surrounded them, spears pointed, faces grim. They expected the human to fall quickly. Humans were supposed to be weak, fragile, easy prey. Yet the broken chain at the girl's wrists told another story. The market had seen it snap under his hand. That moment still echoed in their minds like thunder. The lead guard growled, his voice heavy. "You dare to challenge us, human? Do you think your kind can defy the laws of this place?" His words were sharp, but there was a shadow of doubt in his tone. He had seen the chain break, and that sight unsettled him. The human's eyes never left his enemies. His voice steady. "Chains are meant to be broken when they are unjust," he said. He lifted his blade slightly, enough to remind them he was ready. The crowd murmured, torn between fear and excitement. The traitor shouted angrily, "Fool! That chain was forged to bind even beasts, yet you snap it like a twig. What are you?" His voice trembled, though he tried to hide it. The human did not answer. His silence spoke louder than any words. The girl looked at him, her lips parted. She had felt the weight of that chain for so long. It had dug into her skin, reminded her, every day, that she was nothing but property. And yet in his hand it had broken as if it were made of glass. She could not stop staring at him, wondering if he was truly human or something more. The guards rushed again. Their spears lunged forward. The human moved with swift precision, knocking one spear aside and twisting to push another guard away. The girl stumbled back, her weak legs trembling, but his arm reached for her, steadying her. "Stay with me," he whispered. And she nodded. A spear struck the ground where she had been standing. Sparks flew. The crowd gasped. Some cheered, others shouted for blood, but the human's focus never wavered. He slashed the chain from her ankles, the broken pieces clattering to the ground. The sound rang louder than any cheer, louder than any cry. The girl's breath caught. Her body felt lighter, freer. She had lived with chains so long that she had forgotten what freedom felt like. Tears welled in her eyes. She touched her wrists, staring at the broken iron lying at her feet. For the first time, she felt like maybe she was more than just a slave. The traitor roared, furious. "Do not let him escape! That girl is ours! She belongs to the market!" His voice was desperate, his power was slipping, he could feel it. The human's defiance was changing the crowd, their jeers were turning into whispers, their laughter into silence. The human pulled the girl close, his blade flashing again as guards pressed harder. Sparks lit the air as steel met steel. The clash echoed through the square. The girl could barely breathe, her heart pounded. She had never seen such strength, not from her own people, not from anyone. The guards fell back for a moment, regrouping. The human's jacket was torn, his breath heavy, but his eyes burned brighter. He looked at the girl, his voice low. "You are free now. No one will chain you again." Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe him. Her whole life had been nothing but chains, pain, and mockery. Could freedom be real? Could she truly belong to herself now? She clutched the coat tighter, holding on to his words as if they were life itself. The traitor screamed again, pointing at the human. "He cannot win. He is only one. Crush him." His voice shook with fear. He could see the crowd's faith slipping. If the human escaped with the girl, the market would lose its control. Others would begin to question, others would begin to fight. The guards obeyed. Storming forward, spears flashing, the human braced himself, his blade ready, his stance unbroken. The girl pressed against him, her heart racing. She wanted to run, but something in her told her not to. Something in her whispered that this man would not fall. The first guard lunged. The human sidestepped, striking his weapon away. Another swung wide, but the human twisted, kicking him back. The fight was fierce, but his movements were precise, controlled. He was not reckless. He was unyielding. The crowd grew restless. Some shouted for the human, their voices low but spreading. Others watched in silence, the air thick with tension. The market was changing. The power of fear was breaking. The girl's eyes widened. Her voice broke as she whispered, Why do you fight for me?" Her words trembled with confusion. The human glanced at her just for a moment, his voice soft but sure. "Because no one else did." Her heart twisted. The words cut deeper than any chain. Tears rolled down her cheeks. For the first time, she felt seen. She felt valued. The guards hesitated again, beaten back by his skill. The traitor shouted louder, his voice shrill with desperation. "Kill him! Kill the human!" But even as he screamed, doubt spread in the crowd. The broken chains on the ground glimmered in the torchlight, silent proof of something greater than strength. Proof of hope. The girl touched her wrists again, staring at the human. Her fear still lingered, but inside her something new was growing. Something strong, something fierce. And as the guards circled once more, as the traitor shouted his rage, the girl whispered to herself, "He broke my chains. Maybe he can break theirs too." The market of shame trembled, for the night was no longer ruled by cruelty. A new fire had been lit, a human fire, and it would not be easily put out. The market burned with noise. The human stood in the center, his blade raised. The alien girl pressed against his side. The broken chains still lay at their feet, shining in the torchlight. The guards hesitated, their spears lowered but their eyes unsure. The crowd murmured, no longer laughing, no longer mocking. Something was changing, but change brought danger. The traitor's face twisted with rage. He could feel the market's grip slipping. His voice thundered across the square. "Enough!" Guards seized them both. No human defies the market and lives. His words cracked like a whip. The guards straightened, their fear buried beneath duty. The human's eyes narrowed. He knew he could not fight forever. Already his breath was heavy, his jacket torn, his blade dripped sparks from each clash. He glanced at the girl, her face pale but her eyes glowing with something new. Not just fear, hope, fragile but alive. He leaned down slightly, whispering so only she could hear. "We have to run." Her lips parted, trembling. "Run. Where can we go?" she asked. Her voice shook. He tightened his grip on her arm gently. "Anywhere but here." The guards charged again, spears cutting the air. The human slashed one aside, shoved another away, and pulled the girl down from the platform. They stumbled into the crowd. Bodies shifted. Gasps rose. Some made way, others reached to grab, but the human pushed forward, dragging her through the chaos. The girl's bare feet slapped against the stone, her body weak, yet she ran. Her small frame pressed against his side as he shielded her. Behind them, voices roared, boots thundered, the chase had begun. The market spilled into narrow streets, dark alleys lit only by dim lamps. The human pulled her into one, his hand steady despite the chaos. "This way," he whispered, his steps quick, careful. The girl's breath came in short bursts. Each corner felt like a trap, each shadow a hunter. The shouts grew closer. Guards spread out. Their heavy armor clanged against the stone. Torches flickered as they swept through alleys, searching. The human stopped for a moment, pressing her against the cold wall. His body shielded hers. His eyes scanned the darkness, listening. She clutched his coat tighter, her voice trembling. Why are you doing this?" she whispered. He looked down, his face calm despite the danger. "Because no one else would," he answered simply. His words burned in her chest, her throat tightened. No one had ever spoken like that for her. Suddenly a torchlight swept near. Voices echoed. "This way. They cannot be far." The girl gasped, but the human's hand pressed gently over her mouth. "Quiet," he whispered. His voice was calm, steady. His presence soothed her fear. The guards marched past, their shadows long. The human waited, silent. The girl's heart pounded, pressed against him. She felt his steady breathing, strong and unshaken. When the voices faded, he released her gently. "Come," he said, and they moved again, deeper into the maze of alleys. The city seemed endless. Every turn led to another dark path. The girl stumbled, her legs weak, but he caught her, holding her steady. "Stay with me," he whispered again. The words wrapped around her like his coat. Behind them, the hunt grew louder. The trader's voice echoed, furious. "Find them! Tear the city apart if you must. Bring me the human's head and the girl alive." His anger rolled like thunder. The girl flinched, her eyes wide with terror. The human's hand tightened on hers, his voice low. "Ignore him, he won't touch you again." His words carried a promise, and though she wanted to doubt, she found herself believing. They reached an old street. The stones cracked and walls crumbling. Abandoned houses stood silent, shadows thick. The human pulled her inside one, pushing open a half-broken door. Dust swirled in the air. The place smelled of rot and age. But it was shelter. He guided her to a corner. Letting her sit, she sank down, exhausted, her chest heaving. Her thin hands still clutched the coat as if it were her last shield. He crouched beside her, his eyes scanning the broken windows, listening for danger. She whispered again, her voice small, "They will kill you for this." Her eyes shone with tears. He looked at her, his face calm. "Then let them try," he said. His words shook her, not because of arrogance, but because of the steady truth in his tone. He was not afraid. For a moment, silence filled the room, only their breaths echoed. The girl looked at him, her lips trembling. "Why would you risk your life for me?" she asked. Her voice cracked. The human's gaze softened. "Because you don't deserve what they did to you," he said. "Because no one deserves that." Her throat closed, her heart pounded. She had always believed she was worthless, that her pain was nothing. Yet here was someone who fought, bled, and risked everything just to keep her safe. Suddenly, a noise outside broke the moment. Heavy boots crunched on stone, voices shouted nearby. The glow of torches seeped through cracks in the broken walls. The human stood quickly, his blade ready, his eyes sharp. "They found us," he whispered. The girl's hands trembled. "What will we do?" she asked. Fear shook her voice. He looked at her, his eyes steady. "We escape again," he said firmly. He reached down, helping her to her feet. "Stay behind me, don't let go." She nodded, gripping his coat tighter. Her fear was still there. But so was something else, something she had never known. Trust. The door rattled. Shadows moved outside. The chase was not over. It was only beginning. And as the human stepped forward, blade raised, the girl realized that the night itself seemed to bend around him. They would not bow to the market. Not tonight. Together they would run. Together they would defy. And in the darkness of the city, the first spark of rebellion began to burn. The night pressed in around them. The human led the girl through the twisting alleys, their footsteps soft against the stone. Behind them, shouts and torchlight hunted closer. The city was alive with danger. Yet he moved with steady purpose, never letting go of her hand. Her bare feet ached, her thin body shivered. Every shadow looked like a trap. Every noise made her heart leap. But still she clutched his coat tighter. It was her shield, her comfort, her only warmth in the cold streets. At last he pushed open the door to a crumbling shelter. It was an abandoned building, its walls cracked, its roof sagging. The smell of dust and rust filled the air. Inside, silence waited, heavy and still. "Sit," he said softly, guiding her to the corner. She lowered herself to the ground, her body trembling from exhaustion. He knelt by the broken fireplace in the center, pulling out a small bundle from his pack. A spark flashed, then another, until a fragile fire came to life. Its glow pushed back the darkness, filling the room with a flickering warmth. The girl stared at the flames, her wide eyes reflecting the light. It had been so long since she had felt true heat against her skin. For years, she had only known the cold. Cold of chains, cold of mockery, cold of loneliness. The fire felt like a dream. The human placed some wood into the flame, feeding it carefully. He sat across from her, his face calm. His eyes watched her with quiet concern. "You need rest," he said. "And food." His voice was steady, gentle. She pulled the coat tighter around herself, whispering, Why did you help me?" Her voice was so soft it almost broke. Her eyes searched his face, afraid of the answer. He leaned back slightly, his hand resting on his knee. "Because you needed someone," he said. "Because no one deserves to be treated the way they treated you." His words carried no doubt, no hesitation. They hit her heart like fire. Her lips trembled. She wanted to believe, but fear clung to her. "They will come for us," she whispered. "They always come, they never stop." Her eyes filled with tears. The fire's warmth could not melt the ice in her chest. The human's gaze softened. He reached out, slowly, careful not to startle her. His hand rested gently on her shoulder. "Then let them come," he said. "We will face them together." His voice was calm but strong. The words wrapped around her like the coat itself. She froze, staring at him. No one had ever said "together" to her. She had always been alone, mocked, abandoned. Now this man, a stranger, a human, spoke as if her life mattered, as if she was worth standing beside, but the peace did not last. A noise outside made her jump, voices, muffled but near. The glow of torches flickered through cracks in the broken wall. The hunters were close, her breath caught. Her body pressed against the wall, her eyes wide with terror. "They found us," she whispered. Her voice shook, the fire flickered in the draft. Her fear rose with it. The human stood quickly, his blade already in his hand, his eyes sharp. He moved to the window, peering through the cracks. The shadows of guards moved in the alley, searching. Their heavy boots crunched against the stone. The girl pressed her hands together, her heart racing. "They will kill you," she said, tears sliding down her cheeks. He turned his head slightly, looking at her, his expression calm, his voice steady. "Not tonight." The words steadied her trembling heart. He moved to the door, standing in the firelight, his figure tall, strong. The glow behind him made his shadow stretch across the floor. The guards outside shouted, "Search every house. The human cannot hide forever." Their words were sharp, cruel. The girl closed her eyes, fear squeezing her chest. But then she felt the coat around her shoulders. Warm, heavy. His coat. His promise. The human crouched by the fire once more, looking at her. "Stay quiet, stay close to the flames," he said softly. "No matter what happens, I will protect you." His words held no doubt. She wanted to protest, to beg him not to fight. But when she looked into his eyes, she saw no fear, only resolve. He rose again, stepping back toward the door. The firelight flickered across his face, making him look almost otherworldly. The girl's tears fell silently. Her hands clutched the coat tighter. She whispered to herself, "Please come back." Her voice was small, but it carried her heart. Outside, Boots stopped just beyond the door. Torches glowed brighter. The sound of armor rattled. A guard's voice thundered, "Open by order of the market." The human's hand gripped the door handle. His blade gleamed in the other. He looked back one last time. His eyes met hers, and in that look was a promise stronger than any words. The fire crackled, the fear grew, and the night held its breath. The human stepped into the darkness, ready to face whatever waited, and the girl, alone by the fire, realized her fear was no longer the only thing inside her chest. There was something else now, fragile but growing. Hope. The fire in the ruined shelter crackled softly. Its warmth wrapped around the alien girl, yet her heart could not rest. She sat curled in the corner, clutching the human's coat close. Her eyes stayed fixed on the broken door where he had stepped, out. The sound of voices outside had faded, but silence brought no comfort. Silence was only the pause before danger returned. Minutes passed like hours. The flames flickered. Shadows danced across the walls. Every creak of the building made her flinch. She pressed her knees to her chest, whispering to herself, "Please be safe. Please come back." Then it came. The echo of heavy boots outside. The crunch of stone. Under armored feet, the hunters had returned, their voices sharp, cruel, echoing through the empty streets. "Search again. The human is near. He cannot hide. The girl belongs to the market." Her breath caught. Fear gripped her chest. She shrank deeper into the corner, praying the fire would not betray her with its glow. Her hands clutched the coat tighter, as if it could shield her from their eyes. The door creaked. A shadow stretched across the floor. Her heart stopped. But before fear consumed her, the human stepped back inside. His blade wet with dust and scratches, his breath heavy but steady. Relief poured over her like rain after a long drought. She almost cried out, but he raised a hand gently, signaling her to stay quiet. "They are close," he whispered, his voice low, calm. His eyes flicked toward the window where shadows moved. "They will not stop tonight. They want you back. They want me dead." The girl's lips trembled. "Then run," she begged. "Leave me. Save yourself." Her voice cracked. Her heart twisted at the thought. But she could not bear the idea of him dying because of her. He crouched in front of her, his gaze firm, steady. "No," he said simply. "I will not leave you. You are not theirs anymore. You are free, and freedom must be protected." His words struck her deeper than any chain had ever cut. Tears welled. In her eyes, she shook her head. "But they will kill you," she whispered. He leaned closer, his voice calm but sharp like steel. "Then let them try." Outside, the guards shouted, "Search the ruins. Tear down every wall if you must." Their boots thundered nearer. Torches lit the cracks in the walls with a faint orange glow. The human stood, his blade in hand, his figure tall against the firelight. His shadow stretched across the room. His presence filled the space with strength. He glanced at her once more. "Stay by the fire. Stay hidden. Do not make a sound," he said. His tone left no room for argument. Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream for him not to go, but the words died in her chest. Instead, she whispered, "Please come back." He gave the smallest nod, then turned toward the door. The hunters arrived. The door burst open with a crash. Splinters scattered across the floor. The guards stormed in, spears raised. Their armor gleamed in the torchlight. Their leader's voice thundered, "Human! Give her up or we will tear this place apart." The human stepped forward, blade flashing in the firelight. His voice rang with calm defiance. "She is not yours." The fight exploded. Steel clashed with steel. Sparks filled the air. The human moved like a storm, blocking, striking. Twisting through the narrow space, the girl's hands covered her mouth, muffling her cries. Her heart raced as she watched. Terror and awe tangled in her chest. The guards pressed hard, their numbers greater, their strength fueled by rage. But the human's movements were precise, calculated. Every strike of his blade forced them back. Every step he took shielded the girl. The leader snarled, his eyes blazing. "You cannot win, human. More will come. You are only one." His voice dripped with hate. The human's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp. "One is enough." The words froze the air. Even the guards hesitated for a heartbeat. The girl's breath caught, her chest pounded. She believed him, though she could not explain why. The fight raged on. The human's jacket tore further. His arm bled from a cut, but his stance never faltered. He struck down another guard, sending him crashing into the wall. The firelight danced wildly as the room shook. The girl pressed her back to the wall, her eyes wide with terror and wonder. Her lips whispered, "Why do you fight so hard for me?" The human, hearing her even in the chaos, answered between strikes, "Because you are worth it." Her tears fell, hot against her cheeks. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever looked at her and seen worth until this night. The guards staggered, beaten back. Their leader growled in fury, "Fall back. Call for reinforcements. He cannot hold forever." The hunters retreated, their boots thundering into the night, leaving the shelter cracked, but still standing. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The human lowered his blade, breathing hard. His eyes scanned the shadows to be sure. Then he turned to her, his gaze soft. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head quickly, her voice trembling. "No, but you're bleeding." Her small hand reached out, hesitant, touching the tear in his sleeve. His skin was warm, blood fresh, yet he only smiled faintly. "It is nothing," he said, her throat closed. She wanted to say more, but no words came. Instead, she clutched the coat tighter, her heart overwhelmed. She whispered softly, "They will not stop, they will keep coming." He nodded, his face calm. "Yes, they will return, but so will I." His voice carried weight, a promise carved in stone, and as the firelight flickered across them, the girl realized something had changed inside her. Her fear was still there, sharp and cold, but beneath it burned something stronger. Trust. The hunters had returned, but so had hope, and the night was far from over. The fire in the ruined shelter crackled. Softly, its warmth wrapped around the alien girl, yet her heart could not rest. She sat curled in the corner, clutching the human's coat close. Her eyes stayed fixed on the broken door where he had stepped out. The sound of voices outside had faded, but silence brought no comfort. Silence was only the pause before danger returned. Minutes passed like hours. The flames flickered, shadows danced across the walls. Every creak of the building made her flinch. She pressed her knees to her chest, whispering to herself, "Please, be safe, please come back." Then it came, the echo of heavy boots outside, the crunch of stone under armored feet. The hunters had returned, their voices sharp, cruel, echoing through the empty streets. "Search again. The human is near. He cannot hide. The girl belongs to the market." Her breath caught. Fear gripped her chest. She shrank deeper into the corner, praying the fire would not betray her with its glow. Her hands clutched the coat tighter, as if it could shield her from their eyes. The door creaked. A shadow stretched across the floor. Her heart stopped. But before fear consumed her, the human stepped back inside. His blade wet with dust and scratches, his breath heavy but steady. Relief poured over her like rain after a long drought. She almost cried out, but he raised a hand gently, signaling her to stay quiet. "They are close," he whispered, his voice low, calm. His eyes flicked toward the window where shadows moved. "They will not stop tonight. They want you back. They want me dead." The girl's lips trembled. "Then run," she begged. "Leave me. Save yourself." Her voice cracked. Her heart twisted at the thought, but she could not bear the idea of him dying because of her. He crouched in front of her, his gaze firm, steady. "No," he said simply. "I will not leave you. You are not theirs anymore. You are free, and freedom must be protected." His words struck her deeper than any chain had ever cut. Tears welled. In her eyes, she shook her head. "But they will kill you," she whispered. He leaned closer, his voice calm but sharp like steel. "Then let them try." Outside, the guards shouted, "Search the ruins! Tear down every wall if you must." Their boots thundered nearer. Torches lit the cracks in the walls with a faint orange glow. The human stood, his blade in hand, his figure tall against the firelight. His shadow stretched across the room. His presence filled the space with strength. He glanced at her once more. "Stay by the fire. Stay hidden. Do not make a sound," he said. His tone left no room for argument. Her throat tightened. She wanted to scream for him not to go, but the words died in her chest. Instead, she whispered, "Please come back." He gave the smallest nod, then turned toward the door. The hunters arrived. The door burst open with a crash, splinters scattered across the floor. The guards stormed in, spears raised. Their armor gleamed in the torchlight. Their leader's voice thundered, "Human! Give her up, or we will tear this place apart." The human stepped forward, blade flashing in the firelight. His voice rang with calm defiance. "She is not yours." The fight exploded. Steel clashed with steel. Sparks filled the air. The human moved like a storm, blocking, striking, twisting. Through the narrow space, the girl's hands covered her mouth, muffling her cries. Her heart raced as she watched. Terror and awe tangled in her chest. The guards pressed hard, their numbers greater, their strength fueled by rage. But the human's movements were precise, calculated. Every strike of his blade forced them back. Every step he took shielded the girl. The leader snarled, his eyes blazing. "You cannot win, human. More will come. You are only one." His voice dripped with hate. The human's eyes narrowed, his voice sharp. "One is enough." The words froze the air. Even the guards hesitated for a heartbeat. The girl's breath caught. Her chest pounded. She believed him, though she could not explain why. The fight raged on. The human's jacket tore further. His arm bled from a cut, but his stance never faltered. He struck down another guard, sending him crashing into the wall. The firelight danced wildly as the room shook. The girl pressed her back to the wall, her eyes wide with terror and wonder. Her lips whispered, Why do you fight so hard for me?" The human, hearing her even in the chaos, answered between strikes, "Because you are worth it." Her tears fell, hot against her cheeks. No one had ever said that to her. No one had ever looked at her and seen worth until this night. The guards staggered, beaten back. Their leader growled in fury. "Fall back. Call for reinforcements. He cannot hold forever." The hunters retreated, their boots thundering into the night, leaving the shelter cracked but still standing. Silence followed, broken only by the crackle of the fire. The human lowered his blade. Breathing hard, his eyes scanned the shadows to be sure, then he turned to her, his gaze soft. "Are you hurt?" he asked. She shook her head quickly, her voice trembling. "No, but you're bleeding." Her small hand reached out, hesitant, touching the tear in his sleeve. His skin was warm, blood fresh. Yet he only smiled faintly. "It is nothing," he said. Her throat closed. She wanted to say more, but no words came. Instead, she clutched the coat tighter, her heart overwhelmed. She whispered softly, "They will not stop. They will keep coming." He nodded, his face calm. "Yes, they will return. But so will I." His voice carried weight, a promise carved in stone, and as the firelight flickered across them, the girl realized something had changed inside her. Her fear was still there, sharp and cold, but beneath it burned something stronger: trust. The hunters had returned, but so had hope, and the night was far from over. The fire in the ruined shelter burned low, casting long shadows across the cracked walls. The alien girl sat close to it, her thin hands wrapped tightly around the human's coat. Her eyes stayed fixed on the man who had stood against hunters and guards. He was wounded, tired, but his eyes still burned with defiance. The silence after the battle felt heavy. Outside, the city streets whispered with danger. Voices echoed. Far away horns sounded. The hunters were gathering again. They would not stop, not until the human was dead and the girl chained once more. She trembled, her voice breaking. "They will return," she whispered. "They will not stop until they kill you." Her eyes glistened with fear. She could not imagine a world where he would survive against so many. The human crouched in front of her, his face calm. "Then we do not wait for them," he said. His voice was steady, firm. "We choose what happens next." Her lips parted, confused. "Choose? What can we choose?" "They are too many," she said. Her heart pounded. He looked at her with steady eyes. "We can run and hide forever. Or we can stand. We can show them that chains can break, that their power is not endless." His words struck like a spark to her soul. She shook her head, tears streaming down her cheeks. "But I am weak," she whispered. "I cannot fight. I cannot help you." Shame weighed her voice, but the human leaned closer, his voice soft yet sharp. "You are not weak. You endured their cruelty. You survived their chains. That strength is greater than any blade." Her heart throbbed painfully. His words broke through the wall of lies she had believed all her life. Still, doubt clung to her, until outside horns blared louder, boots thundered. The hunters were returning, stronger than before. The human stood, his blade in his hand once more, his figure framed by the firelight, his voice low. "The time has come. They will be here soon. You must decide." Her eyes widened. "Decide? Decide what?" she asked. Her voice shook. He turned, his gaze sharp. "Whether to remain hidden or to stand with me." Her body trembled. Fear filled every corner of her mind. But as she looked at him, at the man who had broken her chains, who had wrapped her in his coat, who had fought against an entire market for her, something shifted inside her chest. Fear still lived there, but now it was joined by something new. Courage. The door rattled. Torches glowed outside. "The traitors." Voice thundered. "Human, come out! Surrender the girl or we will burn this place to the ground." His words shook the air. The girl's hands tightened on the coat. Her heart raced. She rose slowly, her thin legs unsteady, but she stood. She stepped forward until she stood beside the human, her small figure trembling, yet her eyes burning bright. The human glanced at her, his brows furrowed. "You should stay back," he said softly. But she shook her head. "No," she whispered. "You fought for me. Now I will stand with you." Her voice cracked but carried strength. His gaze softened just for a moment. Then he nodded, accepting her choice. The door burst open. Hunters stormed in, spears raised. Their armor clanged as their boots shook the floor. The traitor stepped in behind them, his face twisted with hate. "There is no escape, human. Give her to us and we may let you live." His voice dripped with poison. The human raised his blade, his stance unbroken. But before he could speak, the girl's voice rang out, trembling but fierce. "I am not yours," she said. "I will never be yours again." The crowd of hunters paused. Her words shocked them. Her voice carried more power than her small body should hold. The traitor's face twisted with rage. "Silence! You are nothing," he roared. But the girl stepped closer to the human, holding his coat tighter around her. "I am not nothing," she whispered. "He showed me that." The traitor snarled, spitting. "Kill them both." The hunters charged. The human's blade flashed. Sparks filled the air. Steel clashed against steel. The room shook with the fury of battle. But this time, the girl did not cower in the corner. She stayed close, moving when he moved, her small hands grabbing broken wood and hurling it at the guards, distracting them, giving him openings. Together they fought, not as a savior and a victim, but as two who had chosen to defy. The guards began to falter, their numbers strong, but their will cracking. The crowd outside the ruins gathered, watching. Whispers spread quickly. The girl speaks, she defies them. The human fights like fire. Hope rippled through the crowd, small but spreading. The traitor saw it, panic flashing in his eyes, his power slipping. "No!" he shouted. "She is mine! She belongs to me!" His voice cracked with desperation, but the girl raised her voice louder than before. "I belong to no one!" The human's blade struck true, knocking the leader's spear from his hand. The traitor stumbled, falling back, his eyes wide with fear. The guards froze, uncertainty gripping them. The crowd outside roared, not with laughter, but with something. New cheers. The girl's chest heaved, her body trembling. But inside her, chains had shattered more completely than ever before. She looked at the human, her voice soft but steady. "We are free." The hunters fled, their leader scrambling into the night. The crowd pressed closer, their eyes wide, their whispers turning into shouts of courage. The market had changed that night. The human lowered his blade, his breath heavy. He looked at the girl, her thin frame still trembling but her eyes burning bright. He smiled faintly. "Yes, we are free." She clutched his coat tighter, her heart racing. She knew danger still waited, that the hunters would return again and again. But now she was no longer just a shivering outcast. She was someone who had chosen. Someone who had stood. The choice that night had changed everything. Not only for her, not only for the human, but for everyone who had. Seen the market of shame would never be the same again.